And welcome back to 0 to 60. We actually weren't talking for a change. We're being verging on professional.
I wouldn't go that far.
That would be silly.
I think it would be, but we're not just chatting our usual shit. I think we're all tired after a long, arduous armory because people decided that Fatigue Oldham's playable, which is
It
always
was.
a
It was
shame.
wrong, long and wrong and terrible. And yeah, Liam unfortunately has converted somebody else locally to playing Oldham now. So now we
About
have to
time.
endure the mirror.
But no, thank you everyone for tuning in. We have got the usual gruesome threesome. How are we, gentlemen?
I'm alright, mate. How are you?
Yeah, like I say, outside of you beating me for the cold foil this week, I'm all right. But to be fair, I deserve that after what I did to George, because no one deserves to be high rolled like that.
That's all good, mate. I at least managed to get you back in the game we played afterwards.
True, and to be fair, it was your own deck, so
Yeah, I'm not sure that makes it better, honestly.
no, maybe not, maybe not. But I mean, we'll come on to decks and various heroes, I think, slightly later on, because we've got a fair few bits to talk about today. So, I mean, it's been since we've last recorded, we've seen some really, really weird boxes and cases get opened. Um, we've had the Chicago Brawl, we've had Premier Play stuff, we've had Law stuff, so I guess we're better off jumping straight into it, because I think the distribution stuff's kind of been covered off quite a lot, but there was I say isolated case, it seemed like it was everywhere on Twitter, of almost like, I mean, God boxes and God cases doesn't actually seem quite the right way of putting it from what we saw.
Yeah, no, I mean some of these. Don't get me wrong. There's been some interesting ones I think that have been outside of this collation issue, but the ones we saw where it was literally every single pack containing a Rainbow Four Legendary were quite something to see and to find out they were real. But obviously we've since had it addressed by LSS, so at least we now know that it was a real thing. It is very isolated. We don't expect to see many more of them when they luck.
No, it was a about half an hour basic Rainbow Foil legendaries got put into the hopper rather than Rainbow Foil
Mm-hmm.
commons. So you got boxes where every other pack, where they would have had a normal Rainbow Foil common, it was a redback shroud, it was a trench, it was a quiver, and you see these ridiculous things appearing where people, case and fabled as well. So I know I had got one god pack with a fabled and the extended art cold foil redback shroud, but other than that, my two cases were distinctly average, if not slightly
Yeah,
below.
yeah, you can feel okay about having one pack that's that good
Yeah,
when the rest of your case contains nothing. But goodness me, if you kept opening ones like that, that'd be quite something.
so
So
so I mean, I guess the main thing, because everyone's covered this to death. Let's face it, it's an accident. Shit happens. Get over it. But is it a problem for this set, especially looking at like the secondary market, or is it actually a good thing?
go on, Liam. You haven't said anything so far.
I was actually thinking about that. I didn't really have an answer ready for that one.
Fair enough.
Im-
I guess I
eh,
can go. I mean, I don't think it's much of an issue. I think the price of these is already absolutely like hit the floor anyway for the rainbow foil legendaries for the set. I mean, a lot of them are like what 30 35 pounds, something like
yeah,
that at the
literally,
moment.
literally looking now, they are about 35 quid for pretty much
Yeah,
any of them. The
I think
quiver's
I
a little
think
bit
some of the
cheaper.
ones as it should be. But
You
the
love that
yeah,
quiver.
honestly,
It's shite.
no, I do not love that quiver. But anyway, yes. Yeah, I don't think it'd be a problem at all. Honestly, like it looks like from Ellis's statement that they reckon that there's like point 0.4 between point 0.4 and 0.8% extra L's on the market, um, which I don't think really makes a huge difference on the whole. It's not going to really tank the prices as long as they make sure that these cases don't make their way to being shipped out for a particular event or something like that, and given us product for that. Then I don't see what issue it's going to cause really.
No, I think when you look at the secondary market, I think there's been it does. I think it does have an impact a little bit because you've got some people who, generally speaking, if people open an L, they're probably going to keep it. But when you've had these people who are potentially opening 7, 8, you are getting slightly more probably coming onto the market a little bit.
You honestly think that has that much of an impact? Like, sure, maybe in your local scene, right? Like, if I've opened 7 or 8 red batch, I'm probably gonna sell one to you guys cheaper or locally or something like that, or the people I know. But apart from that, you put them on at the same price as everybody else does on card market, and like the numbers we're talking here are a drop in the ocean compared to the numbers that are going to be opened.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think, I mean, to be honest, the prices. I mean, I know we had a discussion about this on what the price of L's should be, and I've kind of come round to the fact that actually I think this is actually a really good spot for legendaries to be for getting people into the game at 35, like say 35 quid for L's. Admittedly,
Yeah,
they're not the most powerful, but
I think I said it before. You know, I like it where it's at. I don't like the majestic prices, but the legendary prices sound great to me. Like you say, the ability to go and pick up. You don't have to shell out 100. I mean, you look at some of the old sets. Like it was hundreds of pounds when these first sets first came out for the L's. People put them on for massively over the amount that you'd expect, and they slowly started to drop off. That doesn't seem to happen now. Like this last set, it took within a couple of days. All of a sudden, some of these L's were down to 30, 40 pounds.
yeah, and I think I mean, there's some bits with it around. Obviously, you open a pack, and it was something else. I think I was listening to Push the Point the other day. You know, there's just joy of opening packs, and that's. I think what you can't start doing is looking at a case now and expecting to get your money back. I think that's the only thing that's really changed.
I also just honestly think it's quite nice that the L isn't necessarily a big money card in the fact that at least then you don't feel like you're priced into selling it, particularly if it's a class that you don't play. You know, if you open an L and it's only worth £30, it's like, well, I don't feel like if this is sitting in my binder, it's just, you know, it has to be sold. So you do get that experience of pulling an L and getting to keep it, and you think, like, maybe I'll play with it in the future. Whereas opposed to if it was worth £200, you'd be like, well, I've kind of got to sell this now because
like New Horizons.
Otherwise, it's dead money, right? Exactly. If you're not playing Ranger or particularly Lexi regularly, and you open a New Horizon, you know, right now like a cold foil or something, it's literally £200 that you've got there. So you're always going to sell it, but at least with this, then you can make the choice as well to go for the cold force one because they're not that much more expensive.
No, so, I definitely did that with the Van Brace because I think obviously with the unfortunate growth of the stain that is Oldham locally, it's actually quite good. So this is a card I definitely underrated. But like I say, I think the L prices are in a really good spot outside of obviously some of the more historic ones, and if they stay at that, I think that's good. And I think it took a little bit of me readjusting my, you know, if I open a box, I want to feel like I can get 80 quid out of it, or whatever you end up paying for said box. And I think you're just not going to get that anymore. It's not like Crew or Monarch back in the day. But I think the actual problem is the M's, because those things are varying like I don't know what.
I think also the biggest problem for me isn't the fact that you can't get the money back. I'm never, at the end of the day, I'm never opening product to try and make money. You know, I'm not expecting to get my money back out of a box, so who cares, right? At that point. But what's more disappointing is I don't get the number of M's that I want to trade with other people, or I don't feel like through opening boxes I'm ever gonna get a complete playset for outsiders.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel, but like, how many cases do we actually think you'd have to actually open at this point to have a chance at getting a playset? I mean, honestly, if it's by what I've pulled, I'm pretty sure I could keep opening cases forever, and I'd never get any premeditates.
You've got a really good knack of avoiding premeditate, you George.
I really have that, and Codex. Honestly, can't open them to save my life.
Well, to be fair, you just speak to Ian locally. I mean, that boy's pulled more frailties on Thursday last week than out of 3 packs or whatever it was. The man's a monster.
To be fair, mate, between all of us, I believe we've pulled 3 more Fableds than we pulled Codex of Frailties.
Yeah. I think because I opened 2 cases. George, you opened 1. And Liam, you opened a box, was it, or something like that?
I haven't opened any.
You opened any?
He hasn't. No.
I should have given you this, but we didn't get any premeditate. So we get 1. We got no Codex of Frailties. It was like I think one of the things with distribution is, at least from what I saw with my cases, is slightly just anecdotal. The amount of stuff like shurikens and dishonors versus, like, say, you premeditates, your give and takes, Down and Dirties, even cards like that. There was so many more, so many more. Like, I think I ended up with 6 Dishonors and 4 Shurikens.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed like when you first opened those two cases that really that there might be some sort of clumping. I don't know if that's actually kind of carried through for me or whether or not
Mm.
that's actually been there. I haven't seen many cases where it's like, oh, this has had a real abundance of this particular majestic. So that might have just been an outlier, but it did seem that way when we first saw
I
you
did just
open
get
that.
the Ninja case.
Yeah, and I mean, it seemed to happen after our pre-release case as well. I think for that again had a lot of those as well. Um, but yeah, it really seemed like that was the case. But I don't know whether it is or not really.
So how do you feel about it all, Liam? Because obviously, as much as you haven't opened anything, you've seen the prices, and would you would it make you want to either buy singles or actually crack a case open or open boxes to get product?
Um, it's a hard one to say because personally I love opening packs, but I
Yeah,
think if I was to do it properly, then I'd just be buying singles because there's no guarantee I'm hitting my codexes on my premeditates, and I have no interest in opening shurikens and dishonors, so I'd just rather just buy the singles. But the problem is they're fucking expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think I checked just before we jumped on. I think Frailty's still sitting at around 30 quid.
yeah.
Premeditate's
Frailty's a
probably a little
hard one
bit
to
higher.
judge, isn't it? Yeah, they both seem to be sitting around the £25 mark, I think, which is ridiculous. I mean, I know Frailty definitely had a buyout from what we've heard. I know some people obviously dispute that, but which I think is a real shame to see. Honestly, just people trying to make money out of essentially taking cards out of players' hands, which I think is always a shame.
But it is to some
Um,
extent. Good good cards are going to be expensive, and we'll come on to Chicago Brawl. Frailty's a good
yeah,
card,
I get the good cards got are going to be expensive, but
but 40 quid is still
it,
excessive.
yeah, I mean, but to see a price go from in less than 24 hours from £15 to £35, which is what
Yeah.
Codex of Frailty did, is ludicrous, and that's not because people started realizing it's a good card. Well, at least not in the way of players were just buying that. I do believe that people have probably been buying this on bulk to sit on them, which I don't think is a practice I particularly condone myself.
Well, it's the second. It's the second. Oh, I mean, obviously, premeditate probably fell into the same bracket, but it feels like the second time. So we had it with the short printed surgical extraction, and then we've had it
Yeah,
with this. Obviously, back in the day, people were trying to make all the free monies off first edition Crew and Monarch, and then the bubble burst. So maybe it is people are starting to spec more on some of these cards to try and
yeah.
flip them.
It very much seems that some people are trying to be good at predicting what's going to be in short supply, whether something falls in a particular spot and therefore is slightly rarer. Because I mean, they definitely called it on the surgicals, like you say, way before LSS put out their statement about the issue with surgical. Um, and then obviously the people who jumped on that, I'm sure some of them made a lot of money off selling the surgicals back into the market after they purchased them at a lot lower. But
And just to add into that, if he's listening, Adam, no, Fogdown still isn't one of those cards. There isn't going to be. If it was going to work, it'd work now while Azalea's piling about 10 buffs onto stuff, but it's not. Don't try it. It's okay. But anyway, we'll carry on.
yes,
I think the only last thing on the distribution stuff is, from what we've seen, is a real difference between Japan and Belgium, which obviously the two main, outside of the issues with like God cases and the half an hour collation issue. That in the Belgian print, we get varying numbers of rares per pack, whereas in Japan and the Japanese print, it seems like it's always 2 rares. And normally, obviously, that's not going to have a huge impact, but considering we've got a Pro Tour coming up and draft's going to be part of that, is it going to disadvantage some people that the product they get access to practice is going to be one print and then they turn up and it's the other, in terms of the actual pack configurations and how they learn to read the signals in this, which is actually I found it quite a little bit harder in this.
It's certainly an interesting one because I think is a like people in Australia, New Zealand, and Asia are all getting theirs from Japan, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then America and Europe get theirs from Belgium.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Cartamundi.
I
So,
believe so.
so everyone in Europe and America is going to be that, which means Proto Baltimore is going to be um, Belgium print run. So the
We assume
people
so.
in Asia and New Zealand, Australia, are probably going to be like a slight disadvantage in because their practice might be based off two rares, and then when they go drafting Belgian print runs, their numbers might be off. So it's definitely an interesting one. Whether or not it causes major issues for them is a different story, but it might be
Yeah.
a slight complication.
Yeah, I could maybe be leaned into me thinking there'll be a slight complication. I don't see it being a big issue, honestly. Like, you know, we don't know whether with the fact that we get three occasionally, whether that evens out in comparison to obviously sometimes having one. So there might still be the same number per box, say, or anything like that. I don't know if we have the numbers for that yet, or whether that's true. But also, I think the other thing is, as long as you know this going in, and you'll always be able to tell the difference between the two print runs because one of them's in paper packaging and the other isn't.
Yeah.
So when you sit down to draft that, you should at least have the knowledge of which one.
Oh, you
you're-
won't in a
you're pulling
you
packs
won't
from.
in a PT, right? Because you don't
Oh, that
actually
is
open
true.
packs
That
to
is
get
that is
opened
true.
out of envelopes.
Yeah, no, that is actually very true. To be fair, so for that particularly, you won't because they'll obviously have
I think-
they've taken them out and pre-stamped them beforehand. So whether or not they'll tell people, I guess, where those packs have come from, if that is a thing, that would be helpful.
I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. If knowing that there's a collation difference in terms of how the pack's put together, apparently it's known that there is because there's a limitation with one of the printers in what they can and can't do. You know, whether that's they were intending one thing for Japan or they always or it was the Japanese print or one for the European print. I think there's rumours of releasing an article about that just to go over the differences. But as long as you tell people, like you say, I guess you can kind of go in with that level of practice, and you've got stuff like Draft Fab as well to be able to do stuff. And then obviously you just know, and we'll go into a little bit of Pack One Pick One. I think is a little bit of a treat after this for folks. But so I think they obviously moving on to obviously the Pro Tour. We've had a couple of tournaments happen last couple of days with Chicago Brawl, so we can see.
Yeah, we finally kind of got our first glimpse of the meta, really, didn't we? Which was interesting.
Yeah, it was double Azalea final. Whoa!
Jump right into the end, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways the bigger thing was like the breakdown for the day in general. The meta was different to how we left it, shall we say? I believe Dromai was the most represented deck. Then it was Azalea. Was it then Lexi after that? I don't know if you can remember, Liam. I believe you watched it at the same time as I did.
I think I don't remember the breakdown fully. I remember Draw
No,
My
neither do
Azalea
I.
being the top two, and anything else after that I can't remember.
I remember Lexi was pretty high, and then I think Oldham was reasonably high too. But yeah, once you get past that, I have absolutely no memory of what it was. But for sure, it was definitely Dromai Azalea. And I think one of the bigger things is that Dromai didn't convert.
Yeah.
No Dromai in the top 8, which was pretty big.
I mean, it's
and
interesting because you assume that if there's going to be a load of Azalea, that the Dromai is quite good into that, or at least historically.
Yeah, you'd expect so. And I think also, given where it was being in that part of the US, historically, from what I understand, Dromai is very popular there. There's some very good Dromai players, and yeah, I think more people were probably expecting her not just to show up, but to do well. And obviously, for some reason, she fell off. Whether maybe they haven't adapted to what Azalea's doing now, I don't know.
I mean, I think obviously seeing what the top 8 was, and then eventually moving into the finals, you can see, and obviously just from us actually having the cards and playing with them, you can see the power of stuff like the codexes, the new lace arrows, being able to give the tokens like frailties, inertias, and blood rot pox. They are good, and it's kind of just pushed Azalea now to the point where if you can dominate a couple of these effects, you can do some real damage. And to some extent, I guess, looking at the Dromai conversion, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they've got dragons if you hit them with a red in the ledger, so they've got one action point with 2 blood rot pox on it, which they can't then pay for.
To be honest, I actually put the lack of Draw My getting beat by Azalea down to lack of practice. Because I think Draw My is an insanely good Azalea matchup.
Yeah, that's my take on it, honestly, as well. I was shocked to find that they haven't, whether they just queued into other things in the room or didn't see that much Azalea in general, and just the way that Gem paired things. Because, like you say, Liam, I had it being more Dromai favored. You really have to constantly hit the big arrows as Azalea, from my practice at least, to beat Dromai.
It surprised me because you assume, like say, you haven't got a good way of clearing dragons. You know, you haven't got the likes of Cleaving Warrior. I
Oh,
can't
that
think of
old
it.
classic, yes, of course.
Exactly does the job. No, it
Does
doesn't.
it though?
No, no, it doesn't. Well, a man can dream, right? But you haven't got a way of clearing dragons, so you know it's whether you can go face hard enough is always going to be the question. If the on hits are then going to be impactful, if like Red the Ledger obviously kills, stops it dead. Sleep Dart being able to stop them having the access to actually getting Ash, giving Dragons Go again. So
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely some game in there and some room for the meta to be explored. I'm excited to see what the PT is going to bring and to see how both heroes in that regard evolve, and whether people keep bringing Dromai, or whether they move on to something else like Oldhim or another deck
please
that I
don't.
think can counter it well.
Yeah, don't move on to Oldhim. Peace of mind is just a stain on the face of the game.
I think that's become the most said phrase among 0 to 60 about peace of mind.
I
It's
mean, if I
every time that card comes up.
did I what was it an arrow for about 17 I fired today, Liam? You just blocked it. Is it 17 dominated?
16, I believe. Yeah.
16, yeah. Oh, makes all the difference. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
technically it did.
huge.
That was with the Van Brace sat there going, this isn't going to make a difference. I think you actually did block 17. Peace of
Yeah,
mind and
block it was
Oasis.
7. Yeah, block 17 went over your fan brace. So
Just
I
rude.
mean, just good, just good.
Just rude. Oh, and that was get a ponder, so you've got an Arsenal to then do Crown of Seeds next turn.
Yes.
Of course, of course. That is the power of peace of mind.
Yeah, for something I really wanted to write off, it is awful to play against, especially in Oldham.
But yeah, I think apart from that, the other interesting parts today about for you guys, for me, in the Chicago Brawl as well, was I think Icelander's probably looking not as great as we thought she was going to. I think the predictions there looked like she wasn't doing fantastically. Obviously, Michael Hamilton still made the top 8, but it's
But he
Michael
didn't win.
Hamilton. Yeah, exactly, which says it all.
Which is, I think, is listening to MNR. That's the first tournament he's lost since the Pro Tour in Lille, because he won the Battle Hardened and he's won everything since. US Nats, him. Worlds, him. Call Indy, him. Man's a, it's nice. It must be a refreshing change for him to lose. Proves
I'm
he's
sure.
human.
I'm sure he loved it. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it was over the moon.
But no, I mean, what do you think it is that's kind of put Icelander hopefully back in a box?
Liam's a big fan of Icelander.
Oh,
Tell us
wait, can't come straight to me.
No,
I didn't even think.
he loves Levia more.
The thing is, right? I didn't even think Iceland was even a good deck when I had Hamilton won Worlds of it. So like, what the fuck do I know? Because I just think it's a Michael Hamilton different. The guy's just a beast.
And this is why we're going to come to you first, Liam, because that was, we might as well get that out of the way with it done. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there you go. Liam opinion. Iceland so fucking sucks. And it's only Michael Hamilton that plays it to obviously a world winning level. There you go, done.
I'll agree with that statement. He's the only guy who's won worlds on it, so it's
Exactly.
But yeah, undeniable. Yeah, I mean, for me at least, yeah, I think Iceland is very good. It's a very powerful deck, but I think the inertia, like the prevalence of inertia and the number of ways to generate inertia tokens, and the uptick in ranges, I think is really, really bad for Icelander myself. I already had Icelander being really unfavored into Lexi before this set. I think that's got significant. I think it's got worse now that she just has extra copies of Seek and Destroy, which was already a pretty good tech card in the match. So yeah, I think it's probably the biggest thing that's dropped her off, honestly.
And Azalea representing half your health on one arrow.
That too, yeah. It helps when you make them start like, I don't know, like a blitz game right off the bat.
So what do you think the meta's going to look like then? Obviously, I don't see Azalea particularly dropping off at the moment.
Jomai, Azalea, Oldhim, Lexi, all four. Not in that order.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. I'll be interested to see if Dromai actually manages to get the results up on the board. To be honest, because she's never really managed it. I don't think she's really found her meta yet. Maybe this is it.
I,
I don't
she
know.
beats both Rangers, right? Like this is probably the time that she probably rises to the top.
Yeah, for sure. I think it depends what type of build you're gonna do. I don't know whether, and it probably depends how many other aggro decks we get side out of Rangers, the ones that have better and easier ways to clear dragons. Because I think if we see one of those come to being good, whether if we see like a Briar that comes around that manages to, I don't know, to have some game at least into the other decks, that probably knocks Dromai off a fair whack because I think she probably folds to a deck like that.
But the problem with that is them decks fall to Rangers and Rangers are everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. But like I say, if they find one that's either got game into that or has game into the rest of the meta, so like outside of Oldhim, then maybe. But yeah, I know for the large degree, like Azalea is always gonna she's built to prey on aggro decks, so you'd expect decks like that. So it should be a good one for Dromai. She's just never been able to put all the results. So I'll be intrigued to see if she can. Honestly.
What about something like Kano turning up again? Because a lot of those decks seem to have fairly red line.
Copium.
Someone will always turn up with Kano and do well, but it's never going to be a mainstay of the meta, right? I mean,
They never will be. Never can be.
Yeah. No. The moment people like expect Kano loses strength because who cares about like being red line if you can just whack some spell threat in your deck, and particularly if Lexi is more than capable of aggroing a Kano to death way before they get any chance at setting up a kill. Now they either have to just hope they see it in the top X number of cards, and then if they turn around and present shock charmers and another piece of like null rune or two and maybe I think it's a really unfavored matchup.
Yeah, Kano's got what, 3 hands to find his kill probably.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, and that's assuming that like if they actually want to try and return the damage, they're going to be taking quite a lot in return. So I think it's really tough, really tough for Kano if people respect him. But you'll find somebody at the Pro Tour, I think, particularly because there's some very skilled Kano players, obviously, that will turn up. They'll get some results. They'll do well. They will make the most of the fact that people have been cutting down their sideboards as hard as possible because I think this meta is going to be fairly diverse. I mean, look at the Chicago Brawl top 8. If you outside of Azalea,
7 heroes.
7 heroes exactly.
Cool. So. Then we did hit. Is there any last bits on the meta before we move on to a little bit about the Premier play, and then I get excited about lore stuff?
I don't think there's too much yourself. I'm excited. I don't know how you guys feel genuinely for this meta. I'm just excited because it's the first time Rangers going to be good. Yeah, how are you guys feeling about it?
I mean, it's always more interesting when it's diverse because you can turn up with anything and have a decent day. I still think the top decks is still going to be kind of what Liam said, which makes me sad that Oldham's there, but hey ho.
You want him at the top just so he can get fucking LL'd and he can finally smile.
That's true.
It will be a happy day for you when he finally shuffles off.
Will it be a happier day than when Prism went?
That's a tough one.
It wouldn't be for me. I'm not well, Jesus.
Yeah, you were. I mean, obviously because Prism LL'd while we were in the car back from Lille, I think. Because she won the Battle Hardened because she beat the Briar.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, the calling, I think you won it.
Yeah, it was the calling. You're right.
It was.
Yeah,
yes.
you were very pleased about that. But no, I think a diverse meta is always a good thing to go into because people feel like they can play anything. As much as I'm not allowed to play Dory, but she's still bad. And I ignore that.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think she's in a great spot right now. She used to have a pretty favourable Azalea matchup, I think, when the arrows were big enough that your fridge kind of helped. But now I think they go over it, and I'm not sure what you do. Honestly, when you get some of these on hit effects, you don't always get the chance to keep your counters very easily.
No, you don't. It's rude. Liam, your thoughts
on the meta?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's fine, I guess. I've not really played it, so I don't really get chance to have an opinion on it fully. I just get to have a look at what the meta looks like, but I'm more of a feel kind of person, so I get to chance to when I'm playing. That's when I get a better feel for it, rather than just like sit at home and speculating what people are going to bring and stuff. But because there's no pro tour, it's kind of sad. So.
I'm glad you made that more so going.
I did think he was just gonna
Yeah.
just go yeah, and stop. That's it.
I was you know what? I was about to go and just cut it there, and I was like, it's just so me, and I can't be bothered. I'll at least explain a little bit.
I mean, you did good. You did good. So let's move on to the Premier Play stuff. So we got another raft of events with.
Whoa. No.
No,
They are across the globe, as LSS
they
put.
they are very much across the globe. There's got Singapore,
Yes, there's
Hong
a calling
Kong,
in Singapore. Yep. A battle hardened in Hong Kong. Wonderful.
and then everything else on the east coast of East Coast of America.
Yeah, it's all in the US at least anyway, and which is not exactly particularly growth drawing. I mean, we can't complain too much, right? I don't know how you guys feel about this one as well, but how can we can't complain too much when the first announcement was much more favoured towards us over here in Europe, and obviously we found out everything, and we're getting Worlds this year, so I mean, I guess this is them trying to do something for the other side. It would have been nice maybe to have an event announced in Europe later in the year, something like that. But
why Canada's not got an event is beyond me.
Yeah,
that is a good question. Genuinely, I don't know why Canada doesn't seem to get an event.
Well, I think this is the thing. It's and I think it was Yuki Lee Bender put up a map saying, here's where all the events are, and then you just see the West Coast has got nothing. Canada's not got anything. So, and when you consider the size of the US, actually, it's like the same as us traveling to the East Coast. So, I kind of get it, but it depends also where the LSS feels are going to get a thing. And there was the whole, I don't think they got a sponsor on the West Coast anymore because obviously Star City Games does them now. I think it's Star City Games who are doing the streaming for the Pro Tour as well. So there might be some commercial reasons why it's quite so heavily on one side. And like I say, we got Birmingham, we got Antwerp, so I guess we can't complain considering last year we got Peck all.
Yeah, I mean, we got some of the battle hardened as well, right? There's one in Metropolitan Raw as well coming up. So, I mean, there's options for us in Europe, which is a nice change. It's good that we got something little sad. There's nothing for us this time, but exciting for everybody in the US. A lot more battle hardened announced. Obviously, the calling in Singapore as well. That'll be
very well attended.
A fun one to watch, I'm sure as well.
That's one.
It was well attended last time. They did one. They did one last year, I believe, in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one I'd love to go to, and I know some content creators are very keen to do an event in Japan now that they've added that to the list of supported countries, and that'd be one that I'd have to really convince myself not to want to go to.
Yeah, I'd be tempted to go. I imagine that one might be a little while though, considering they're only just releasing product and everything else, localized product at least in Japan. So I imagine they'll probably want to give the scene a little bit of time to grow before they announce their first events. I guess.
Play stuff.
And then bombard it with all the international players that want to go play.
Oh,
exactly. Yes. Yeah, we bring our passion and we're happy about it, not just the fact that Japan's an awesome place and I really want to go. I think before we on to, I think the last couple of bits we got a shed load of lore, which was made me very happy.
I was gonna say there's only one man that's very happy.
I'm just gonna sit back and
go on, Liam. Liam, go full beanbag. You're all right for this.
I got no hood.
Sag. Well, first thing first, with all the announcements on the organised play, we got new artwork. I think we put out one of our tweets. And some of them were... One of them was from the best card in Fab, in Unified Decree. I don't know why that was there, considering everything else was new art. One of them was Prism, doing some sort of ritualistic thing with what looked like Shiana. and has led to the whole people thinking that Transcendence and Dusk Till Dawn will have some characters transcending and becoming more heraldic, probably more light infused, which does include one picture of Dory. I know some people think it's Kasai. Head says no, heart says no, it's fine. But I think some of the arcs, I think you can see from the stories I think it was Morlock Hill, where there's all the stuff with Bolton and how he's been not possessed but kind of infused with the power of some of the heralds. That's kind of where they might go in Dusk Till Dawn. But equally, there was a lot of pictures of Ursa. There was a picture of Solana being swarmed by demons under a red sky. The art is phenomenal, and it's something that I've always said. And I don't know how LSS do it every set, and I don't know how you guys feel about it. The art just seems to get better every set, and I don't always know how it's managed it.
Doesn't it just? I swear, every set, I always find myself saying two things, and I think that's the art is amazing, and it's better than last set, and the foiling is better than last set.
Yeah.
And every set, I swear, every set that comes out, I swear, I say the same thing.
Because it's stuff like even in this, even though I don't think it's the best card in Silver and Shuriken, the art is phenomenal. And the foiling when you get it in cold foil looks so damn good.
Oh yes.
But I think, and then there was like a dragony Hydra kind of thing for you, Liam, just to keep you slightly interested.
Only if it's a dragon. I don't care if it's a Hydra.
It's a dragon with many heads, big lizard.
Imagine this level of large lizard prejudice. if it identifies as Hydra, I'm not interested.
And I mean, this obviously there's the one picture which is I can't remember which column it's from, which has got just a huge picture of Ursa basically. So I can imagine the next version of Chain will be obviously Chain bound by shadows, and the whole thing was obviously kind of shackled himself to Ursa. That maybe something more has happened with that, but. And then we got all the more of the character stories as well. Turns out Benji's a little psychopath. Like just poking people with his Zephyr Needle in the pits. Riptide's traps are even more gruesome, and he just sits in a boat watching people get decapitated, getting upset when it only cuts through like where their nose is rather than just cutting clean through the necks. Azuri's got some weird, obviously she's Azuri Switchblade, where she can change what her weapon is, kind of without doing it, just focusing on it. And generally speaking, and Katsu as well as just wandering about. But I think all the stories they've done for all the lore, and Arachnes as well, and how he was being experimented on by Dr. Mortimer, and he's a creepy fella at the best of times. All the lore's just kind of great, and it's just kind of hopefully going to tie together into sort of where it fits in the wider story. Because obviously Katsu being there to try and find the cure for the diseases of Mysteria, and then seeing all the horrible plagues, and basically just look at Riptide. Man's got one arm and spouts green gas, and calls people fishies far too often for someone who's hopefully relatively sane, at least when he's building these traps. But yes, that was me limiting myself on the lore, because I know it's not your favourite.
No, I mean, I honestly, I actually really like lore. I just was expecting a 60-minute rant about Dory. That's what I don't want.
I mean, that's what we were all expecting. Honestly, mate, you were very self-controlled on that one. I thought you would.
I tried.
I thought you'd be still going on about the fact they're going to give you a good version of Dory.
Well, we don't know we're getting a good version of Dory. It's probably a light version of Dory. That doesn't make it good. Have you seen the Light Warrior cards?
Yeah. If anything, that may make it worse. Who knows?
Do I really need to seek enlightenment and take flight and express lightning in Dory? Probably not.
Never hurts to have access to more cards, I guess.
No, I mean, I'll definitely take Beacon of Victory.
Yeah, I guess you can start running Raiden now. So that'd be fun if that's the case.
Not too bad. To be fair, she has got a big flaming sword in that art, which is kind of cool. Wonder if that's just will it be the third version of the Dawnblade after Standard, Resplendent,
maybe
something else?
giving up the Dawnblade.
Maybe. So,
Maybe
Joe,
it's
what is fucking brilliant though, boys? It's clearly not a fucking axe. And that
you wait
is
so
much more important.
now. You wait for her to get a
I've,
majestic axe in this
I've,
set.
I've properly jinxed that. I've willed that into existence.
You have willed that into existence. It
Fuck.
is. It's not going to be the end of the artwork, and then you're going to hate it even more because it's not. She's going to get.
Doesn't
It's
make sense.
going to be a majestic axe for the set,
Oh,
and it's
dear.
going to be a marvel as well. Once again,
I've already got the Marvel Merciful Battle Axe. I don't need another. Not another. Don't do that to me. But I don't know if you boys have got any thoughts or have actually read any of the stories that they've put out or any thoughts on the art they've produced.
No, I've not read anything.
I
I mean,
haven't read
the art's amazing, but I'm not read anything.
honestly, the only thought that comes to me with the artwork is I hope that whatever is happening to Prism in that picture isn't nice and isn't good for her.
Yeah, I mean, she's looking. You know, if you actually look really closely at the art, it looks like she's growing wings, which, you know, obviously
It's
she
a
has
shame.
access to heralds and whatever's going on with what we assume is Shiana. You know, it almost looks like she's becoming Prism.
It does look like that, yeah.
But she's a
By all
shapeshifter,
means,
so
it does make you. There's a lot of speculation right now, I guess, about exactly what's happening in that, and whether we'll be getting some sort of version of Prism or something that's really Shiana, or whether Shiana was Prism, you know,
yeah.
or anything like that. And I mean, who knows? It'd be interesting to find out. I mean, actually, to be fair, on a little bit more of a speculative side, I'm wondering what you guys are really expecting from Dust Till Dawn at this point. Do you think we'll get a lot of support? Do you think this will be a bit of a buck of the trend of with a supplementary set where it is more focused on one particular talent, or because obviously this seems to really tie into the story arc, this upcoming set. Like obviously we're kind of reaching the first kind of big point of the whole story with Solana and the Demonastery and all the you know, obviously the tension and friction that's there. So we're kind of reaching that point, as far as I understand, at least. I'm not an expert on the law. You know much more than I do, Brooks. But so I wonder whether the cards will tie more closely into it with this, and whether we'll see them really focus on those, or whether we'll get a normal supplementary where we get all sorts of stuff for each class.
I mean, I think from, like I say, from a story standpoint, it really is getting towards a sort of the larger scale battles. We had Morlock Hill, where it seemed that Dory got more people killed.
She's good at that.
She's very good at that.
Very talented.
And that's when she kind of got her Super Saiyan version. But it seems like the Demonastery's winning, and you look at some of the art that they've produced, it does look like Solana's being surrounded, if not completely enveloped by demons. So
yeah, Looming Doom doesn't look good.
no, Looming Doom
does not
look good, and the new art, for which we don't have a name, where it's like a big blood red moon, demons in the air, and you can just see the Solanium, sort of the main sort of building, and the Solanium flag. It looks like it's getting absolutely fucked over. But I think how that might impact the set, I think we maybe a little bit like we got with Arachne, where we got the new class introduced and they got a larger chunk of the cards. I think we might get the new
Something more akin to that.
heroes, light warrior, light illusionist, general, maybe just light cards. It's also the first time we'll see a supplemental set that's got talents.
Yeah, it's more. I guess the point is like obviously, yeah, I guess more akin to that than like Everfest, where we obviously got new heroes. We don't really talk about that one, but you obviously didn't get the cards to support him in that. He had an existing card pool, like the light and shadow heroes already do. So whether they'll dedicate that space, I don't know. Is probably the interesting part, I guess, of this. So be interested to find out.
Like I say, I think if they do a big chunk of light cards, big chunk of shadow cards, and then support for everyone else, because I still think supplemental sets should probably support all classes.
Yeah.
I know the potential of moving away from that model. I know we've got 3 draft sets next year. Hopefully 3 draft sets, 1 supplemental. And they want to see if they can move to that supplemental set being draft, and maybe it's just more story supportive. I think we're going to see less and less.
I really hope we don't ever go too far into it. I think that's probably my main point here. Is I wouldn't really like to ever see, you know, this be almost exclusively cards that only want to be played by light and shadow heroes. Just because, honestly, from my personal perspective, I'm sure there's people that are in the same boat, that I wouldn't care about that set, and it'd be a real shame for me to not give any kind of a shit about a Flesh and Blood release. Because mean, I don't play those classes. I've no intention of playing those classes, at least for the time being. And I'd have to go back and buy a load of Monarch stuff. So I just would not in the slightest really want to pick up that stuff, despite the fact that I think they'll probably end up being very impactful because it's such a central story element. I think they're going to end up making some very powerful heroes from this set.
As long as Prism, how they try and move whatever the new Prism is or the new Light Illusionist, to not just use Spectre and it not just be oppressive like Prism was.
I really hope it's not Prism, honestly. I know I'm in the minority here. I know there's some real die-hard Prism fans out there. But I really hope that they just make a new Light Illusionist. It's not actually Prism. She doesn't get any of the Prism spec or anything like that. It's just, we just move away, fresh start, do something completely very different. Hopefully it's something Ward-focused, because I think that'll tie into everything they've printed recently. And yeah, it looks nothing like previous Prism, because that was a mistake.
Yeah, because she
Tome of AO, George.
Huh?
Tome of AO.
I'm yet to be convinced that card is good.
Tome of AO and Wave of Reality. Oh, there's Wave of Reality blocks too.
Wave of Reality's seen some play, to be fair. I've sat across from that a few times now, and I don't think it's a bad card.
That's because we know Scott.
No, I mean, from other people, to be fair, I'll give him some credit. He might have been an early adopter. Yeah, he was definitely an early adopter. But I mean, the card blocks too.
But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I do think it will be Prism.
Yeah, I think particularly after seeing that artwork.
Means they'll get the Herald of Erudition. They'll have the Arlight Sentinel, which is the bane of my life, or was for many a year.
And, yeah, it's probably going to continue to be for Dory, honestly.
Yeah, as long as I'd just like them to not have a way to just turn these things into weapons and hit with them, because that's when it was just egregious having like 10 shields, ping for 10. You know, they haven't got a Phantasm or anything way of interacting with them. You just get slapped.
Yeah, I think it was egregious because it was that, and also the Heralds Game Go again as well. They had both potential ways of doing it. They hit big and they could chip at you for small damage. But let's not get lost into the Prism thing before. There's an archive of us moaning about Prism when she was still legal.
Yeah, but she did keep Oldhim down.
She did. This is true. Oldhim was not great when she was around. So,
which, let's face it, that's probably a good thing.
Shut up, Brooks.
Yeah, we trade one evil for another, but sooner or later he'll go as well.
Yeah, and then
just in time for Prism to come back and ruin our day.
Yeah, sadly true. So I think, without any further ado, obviously we're moving into starting to look at Blitz. A lot of people, Blitz there. No, we've got Blitz with the skirmish season, which, let's face it, is our most favoritist of formats, and we might have a conversation with some people about some formats hopefully soon. But also we're starting to look forward to like RTN season. We're in the sort of XP window already, and we're gonna have RTNs which are gonna be either draft or CC. So I think is a little treat. We can do a bit of pat one, pick one, boys, if you're up for it.
Sounds like a good plan.
So, sounds good.
Without any further ado, look at that, 3 carefully prepared packs already. So. For those playing along at home, I shall read out what the cards are, and for Liam and George. So, in our first pack, obviously take away these things because no one cares about those. We have a yellow Scout the Periphery, a yellow Cut Down to Size, a red Brush Off, a blue Widowmaker, a blue Wither, a yellow Infecting Shot, a red Twin Twisters, a red Isolate, a blue Muckmire Grapnel, a yellow Hurl, a blue Wreak Havoc, a yellow Sneak Attack, and a Freewheeling Renegades, and last of all, a Blade Cuff.
Red Isolate.
Yeah, that jumped out to me as well, actually, as a class playable card. I think I'd be tempted by the Red Isolate there. Everything else sounded pretty bad in terms of colour, in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really enjoyed playing Arachne, and Isolate's a big card in that, and it's equally if you want to play Azuri.
Yeah, I think Isolate in particular jumps out to me as more of an Azuri card, and I think I'd be prioritising that even more, given that it'd be Azuri. I think both want it, obviously, but like for Azuri, that's an absolute staple, right? And I think I'd be incredibly tempted to pick that up. pack. I like staying open normally, but none of the generics really jumped out at me there.
No, and I think the other thing with this as well is you're definitely not sending any signal that that you're passing up an infecting shot, so people probably aren't going to assume you're in Ranger. But there isn't any particularly strong signals that you can give with this pack. Maybe Scout the Periphery, passing up on that.
Yeah, I think the scout being yellow means that someone could always assume that there was something better in the pack. If someone knows the pack distribution, they may or may not be able to tell, have an idea of what you've taken. But yeah, on the whole, passing a yellow infecting should give people an idea, and maybe will tempt somebody to take something like that from the pack shortly after, I think.
And just as a point as to what we were saying before, we got Hurl, Wreck Havoc, and Sneak Attack, so it was a 3 rare pack.
Very nice.
So nothing overly exciting in that pack.
What color was the Wreck Havoc in that one? Sorry,
it was blue.
Oh, okay. That's what I was just going to say. I think if that was the red, I'd have been tempted to either just hope that somehow wheels around to you, or to maybe do that. But I don't think it's good enough in blue.
Let's move on to pack 2. So take those out. So we have a blue Ravenous Rabble,
Ooh.
a red Springload, a blue Come to Fight, a red Seek Horizon, a red Backheel Kick, a yellow Muckmire Grapnel, a blue Infect, a yellow Headjab, a red Skybound Shot, a blue Short and Sharp, a yellow Toxicity, a yellow Spinning Wheel Kick, a red Inertia Trap, and a Seeker's Gilet.
100% the red Seek Horizon for me.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if this was pack 1 and I got the Isolate and you'd stuck in that, I do like Short and Sharp. I do like the reactions, especially from going. But I think it's hard to look past Seek Horizon to us. Spring Load when I played with it wasn't as bad. I mean, it is going to be draft chaff, but
yeah, I think Spring Loaded was high up on my list. But the moment you said red Seek Horizon, I think that card's just better. It's Spring Load is very good, but I personally prefer Seek Horizon. I mean, I like obviously playing the Rages in the set, and it combos incredibly well with those. But I don't think it's bad in any of the others. And even for Ninja, like you don't have to pay the additional cost for it. It can just be 0 for 4, no go again. So I think it's perfectly playable in everybody else. So I wouldn't be sad if I pivoted away from one of the Rangers and I picked that early.
Also, I don't mind the Seeker's Gilet. I think the Seeker's equipment's good.
I do think it's good, but I'm not sure it's that high a pick for me at the moment.
It's not pack 1, pick 1, but
yeah, I mean, do we actually know right now what the what terms of like the armor is per pack? I'm not actually too sure like how common the armor, because obviously TOA we had amulets sharing the same slot, which meant that it was a really high pick in. I remember TOA for me at least, armor could quite often be a very very early pick, just because of how hard it was to get a complete set. This doesn't feel like
you guaranteed one pack.
One per pack.
Exactly right. It's like because you've not got anything competing with that same slot. I think this in general feels much easier to let that go for a bit, and I don't tend to pick armor. I think pack 1, pick 1 myself.
Nah, like it in like Welcome to Wraith draft, for example, is I don't really tend to like pick your armor early unless it's like basically a legendary.
Yeah.
You tend to just like get you start building your deck, and then you pick armor, and like the bad packs, let's say, or you just like get it late. It's tend to when I tend to do it in Welcome to Wraith, and I think this is quite similar.
Well, that was a 2 rare pack with a fully inertia trap for you there, George.
Ooh, lovely.
And then we've got this. We said we'd do 3. If this is another boring pack, we could always do another cheeky one. Because let's face it, this is just our cardboard crack. So, red freewheeling renegades, blue feisty locals, red scout the periphery. Should I just stop there? Yellow.
Carry on.
Yellow destructive deliberation, blue prowl, yellow spire sniping, blue Descendant Gustwave, blue Isolate, yellow Withering Shot, blue Bleed Out, red Recoil, red Spike with Inertia, which obviously comes in red, blue Razor's Edge, and a Mask of Many Faces.
Scout.
I think it's between the Spike and the Scout for me here.
Yeah.
I like both of those. I think it's probably edging the Scout because it keeps me open.
Yeah, I think
and I think I'm quite happy to pass that and then just not go into Assassin because I think the person next to me I would expect to wholeheartedly go into Assassin the moment I pass them as a Spike.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it was Spike with Blood Rot, I'd be tempted to take that over the Scout because I think Spike with Blood Rot is ridiculously good.
Yeah, maybe.
Scout's nuts.
Scout is nuts and it does keep you open. So I think so far these packs have been fairly self-explanatory. And then, like I say,
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't take the Mask of Many Faces.
No, yeah, I don't think I would. Particularly not early. Like I said before, I just don't think equipment's a high pick priority for me in this set at all.
No. And that was 2 rares. So it shows. I mean, so far, we'll see. We had the one outlier with 3. No M's yet either, which is kind of disappointing, but that is my luck usually. Should we do one more?
Go on then. I'm down for one more.
One more, and then we will call it quits, because otherwise we could just keep going through the entire box that I happen to have set next to my desk. We might do this on more episodes. So, we get Yellow Peace of Mind.
Ooh, Peace of Mind.
A blue Ravenous Rabble. Red Come to Fight. Do we just stop there? A red Head Jab. Yellow Back Heel Kick. A red Wither. Yellow Skybound Shot. Red Back Heel Kick. Yellow Isolate. Red Bleed Out. Red Backstab. Yellow Looking for a Scrap. Yellow Muck My Grapnel. And a Silken Gi.
Yeah,
Come to fight
all day.
It's all day, every day.
Isn't it just? I don't know. The cards. Well, it's one of the best things in the set just because it blocks 3. It's playable by everybody. The buff always applies. I feel like in the set as well, you quite often have to just pitch floating. Particularly if you're going to play any of the ranges, you're pretty much always activating a bow or paying for something. So having one extra doesn't feel that hard to achieve. Ninjas are always pitching for Kodachis, so if you play this first, I don't know. Yeah, the card just is fantastic.
Yeah, I think Come to Fight just fits in every deck. Red Head Jab's not bad if you've already down the ninja train.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a first pick for me unless I was for some reason really wanting to go into ninja. And I think even then I'm probably quite happy if I'm past that. If I want to play Benji, I'll be looking at other colors anyway, primarily. So, particularly with being a head jam, I'm not looking at the reds. Like you want some reds in Benji to force into block, but a head jab's still just one card a lot of the time. So,
I think you can get the head jab into is it Recoil, which is the 2 damage one if you're playing as Katsu, but I don't.
Honestly, I think those combo lines are just kind of better in Benji. The 1-2 punch is very good. The one that deals 2 damage, I think it is.
Yeah.
That felt really good when I last played Benji. The fact they all block for 3 and you just picked up a bunch of those. It's like, okay, they're blues, sure, yellow's great, but it's even if you had like 2 yellows or a blue and a yellow, it was still like 5 damage, something like that. Even if you didn't really get Achi or anything, just held those, hit with 1, get a buff on the next one, and it deals 2 damage anyway. It's like, okay, 5 total. So
I think it pretty much guarantees the person to your left is probably going to end up in Assassin because you get the red Wither, the red Backstab, the red Bleed Out as well, yellow Isolate.
Yeah, there's some good cards there, and I think that's part of what might put me off as well, taking anything out of those, just because I think if I pass one of those anyway, the likelihood is someone pretty close to me is still going to end up on Assassin if they're looking to go in something they're not forcing anything. So I don't really want to pick that fight. I think I'd quite happily just stick with what we've gone here, the Comp to Fight, see what the
Yeah.
next couple of packs give me, and go from there.
Yeah, and I think this is the nice thing about this set. You can stay open more.
Yeah, it doesn't feel half as punishing as Uprising did, where it's like if you didn't decide very quickly, and you didn't then stick to your guns, your draft could end terribly, and it could also very heavily impact the draft of the people around you.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that was 4 fairly straightforward packs. I don't think there was anything there that was really contentious in terms of what you'd take. Nothing particularly exciting either. Although, to be fair, I think in this set I learnt to value block 3s more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we say this. I mean, we all play together, and I'm sure we've already influenced each other slightly. There may well be people listening to this going, "Oh my god, you wouldn't take that? What the hell are you doing?" But you know, I'd love to hear what other people's opinions are on this and whether they think we're completely wrong about what we take. Maybe you'd like I'd always take equipment every time. I just want to end it with a full armor suite, and some of these are too good. So yeah, it might not be as obvious as we think. To me, for sure, I think those were the best hits in each pack.
Yeah, I think the only one I'd potentially between the scout and the spike with inertia, just because again the reactions in this, especially with people blocking with things like well, say blocking, preventing damage with brush off, which seems to be a fairly common card. Obviously, being able to push over that and completely negate it, it has won me a couple of games, so I do value
Yeah,
the attack
it feels
reactions.
powerful. I think bigger than that, to be honest, is the fact that somehow Spike blocks through,
Yeah.
which is pretty great. So I think is huge. But yeah, I get that. I could see it being debatable between those two. I think that's an incredibly powerful card. Like I said, I think just staying open for me, and the fact that I also very highly rate Scout is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any denying Scout's a good card. I mean, and it's not just draft. It gets run in CC.
Yeah, I mean it's good for Ranger in general. Don't get me wrong. I think if I'm picking that, I'm quite. Although I'm staying open, I'm probably not looking to play Azori. It's probably the one hero that I think probably just doesn't really want to scout the
No.
periphery. And it's not like it blocks well. So I think you are making something of a claim in that. So
I mean, do you think Scout is better? Obviously, just from a blitz perspective. Sorry, from a draft perspective. Do you think Scout's better in Azalea or in
yes,
Riptide?
yeah.
I think they're both.
Or
It's,
just
I think it's both. The card is very good in both decks.
It's very good in both decks, but I think the person who ends up with the most scout the peripheries is probably the person who should be in Azalea. If you have a draft pot of 8, I do think in general, if you should be the Azalea player should be competing with the spies, snipings, and the scouts, because if you get a reasonable density of those, you should be pretty resistant to fatigue. You should be able to consistently dominate arrows, even in limited. And I think that's a really big thing. Like obviously Riptide, although it's still good for him, it's still a very good buff. He doesn't care what's on the top of his deck.
No.
So
Yeah, it's not. It's the load
it's
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
care about with Riptide.
Yeah.
So
it's just a free buff for 3. That always impact that it's always playable from like always usable from his arsenal because it's always going to be you can always load. So so yeah, I think it's still very good for Riptide, and I'd take him, but I do think it's better, just frankly better in Azalea.
That's reasonable. Well, I think, chaps, that just about does it for this week. Unless there's any last bits of business before we sign off.
like, comment, subscribe.
Cheers, Liam.
Doing his job. How we go?
Yeah, to be fair, you do it better than me. I just tell people if you fancy it. You know, if you want it.
If you don't mind,
we'd appreciate it. Doesn't take much out of your day, does it? It's only a button. But that's not the way to do it. But yeah, obviously, thank you, Liam. Thank you, George. Thank you to everyone who's listening, and we shall catch you on the next one.
cheers, bye.
Bye.